So, what do we have today? I see a bunch of Go code, main.go on screen. What's all this?
Okay, so today I just want to walk you through some code that I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so, start of the month,
Mm-hmm.
uh, every month on Hacker News, we have a post that goes up where people can basically go and
Mm-hmm.
comment if they have opportunities available at their organization,
Mm-hmm.
right? And number of comments on such posts usually go north of 500,
Okay.
right? And it's not that easy basically to track everything
Mm-hmm.
on that post, right? So there's this huge deluge of information that is going to come,
Yeah, in a couple of
right?
hours, I would assume.
Most of them come on the first day itself, right?
Mm.
So let me just actually show you the post itself.
Ah, nice.
So let's just go to the news jobs. Okay, and this is for July.
Okay,
Okay, let me just actually go.
that's fine. Let's just scroll through this maybe.
No, let's just go back to, yeah, second.
Hmm.
And yeah, so this is post basically.
Ah, 800
Ask happen.
comments in 2 days.
Yeah, 3 days. Yeah. So as you can just imagine, I mean, if I am really looking out for a job and I just want to, know all the opportunities out there, it's very difficult for me, right?
I mean, at least the
Uh,
good bit is the information is out there. You just have to, yeah, scan through it. Yeah,
yep. So that by itself is a bit of a tedious task,
right.
right? And well, full disclosure, I did not try to search if there already exists a solution with
I'm sure someone
HTML.
would have,
I
but
am sure. I mean,
yeah,
this convention of creating this post every month. So there's an
correct.
automated post which gets created at the start of the month.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure it's been there for a few years. I would guess
Right,
that,
right.
and I'm pretty sure someone already has a solution out there.
Mhm.
I just wanted to build something from scratch, and
Yep.
this was a good excuse, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, we have an automated user. The
Who
user
is
ID is who
hiring?
is hiring, right?
Hmm. Whoa,
And as you can see,
37,000.
I mean, of course, it's bound to get cut.
Yeah, everyone who got hired probably upvoted.
Uh, everyone who posted probably upvoted.
That too.
Okay, so if I just maybe look at submissions,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean you can see, and it has like three posts that it creates every month. So one is
Hmm.
for who is hiring,
Hmm.
who wants to be hired,
Hmm.
right? And if you are
Freelancers or
open for
seeking.
freelancing or
Hmm.
someone is seeking a freelancer, right? So
Okay.
useful stuff basically, right?
Nice.
Considering the amount of traffic that Hacker News gets.
Oh, totally.
Okay,
Yeah.
and in an earlier edition of the parser that of the scraper that I have now,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I attempted to actually just basically
Hmm.
load this, just download the page itself, the HTML content, and try parsing it manually.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
that was a good exercise in understanding the parser, the HTML parser that is there in
Mm-hmm.
Go,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was a good exercise from that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But again, probably not a great way of writing the code. And again, I would have to handle certain number of corner cases that would basically be somewhat of a pain for me.
Mm,
So,
right.
so okay. Do you have a question?
Ah, no. Did I lose some
Okay.
audio or something?
No, I think I just heard wait. So I was just curious if you
Yeah.
had
No,
something.
no, 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 no.
Okay. So basically, when I was writing, when I had the earlier revision of this paper, I mean, you can basically
Hmm.
scrape the code and basically try to get, these comments, and but it's somewhat of pain. It's not a very clean approach. And yeah, that was not my main intent. Basically, parsing HTML was not the intention that I had, right?
Right.
So, and I was not aware that there were APIs around Hacker News. I later on came to know that, yeah, what I was doing
Okay.
was too painful. So there are already APIs around this,
So
right?
it makes sense to use them. Yep.
So right, so why not just use them? I mean, why reinvent the wheel, right?
Yep.
So this is one of the APIs that I've used
Mm-hmm.
in this current version of the scraper that I've written, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what you start with is what the user ID is going to be,
Okay.
right? And from that you can get a list of posts,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Okay.
right? And one of the properties that I'm banking on is that this list of post IDs
Hmm. Hmm.
is provided in a sorted order,
Ah.
with the latest post having being the initial entry, right?
Okay.
So older entries will be basically later in this list,
Hmm.
right?
Okay.
So that is one of the basic
Assumptions.
assumptions that is
Okay.
there with the code,
Okay.
right? And so what we do after getting this different objectives, we'll just figure out, okay, yeah,
Hmm.
this is the post ID, right?
Hmm.
What you'll do is go to the second API.
Hmm.
You will just try to extract all the details for that post,
Hmm.
right? If I do that, I'm going to get kids basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the way kids work is, and it will give you a list, right?
Ah,
863,
total count.
right? Not exactly total count, if I remember correctly. Oh,
It seems to
okay,
be not
yeah,
just the count at the first level, but the count of this all the kids of these kids and so on. Maybe.
yes. I am not entirely sure about it, right? I have,
So there are
if I,
two possibilities. So if we just look
mm,
at this
eh,
count,
yes,
how many do we have?
let me
Yes.
just experiment with something which has
Okay.
a smaller
Yeah, the
number of
number
pure
seven.
pure comments,
Yeah,
right?
the number seven. Number seven was that 863.
Right. So I'll probably
Ah,
go with,
okay.
okay.
You want to try
Maybe
a different
say
post? Sure. And we
something like
have
this,
like
right?
nested comments at deeper levels.
Right.
Hmm.
So if I remember, basically meant, I think the list only shows the first level
The list may show the
once.
first level, but then the total children
It
of
will show you the
children.
total number.
Hmm.
Yes. So descendants will show you the total number, and if you look
Right.
at kids, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Some
5,
10,
6,
12, right?
7. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's not 36, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this is what I wanted basically.
Hmm.
So the major reason for that being is that all your posts
Hmm.
for the job, right,
Hmm.
will be first level comments. I
Ah,
mean, a second level comment is usually going to be somewhat of clarification, or if someone has a question
right.
regarding the
Right.
post,
So
right?
that's the convention being followed here on the
Right.
ask
So
and
yeah, so if you
hmm,
see, right, so they have some comment about this thing,
this
right? It's
particular job. Yeah.
right, or say, yeah, link 404 or some stuff like that, right?
Hmm.
So basically, yeah. So what you're really interested in is the first level comment, and
Absolutely.
the assumption that is here is that I'm going to look at the post, right? I'm going to read it,
Hmm.
and I'm going to check if it sounds interesting or not.
Something worth pursuing, digging
Yes, if
deeper.
it yeah, if it sounds worth it,
Hmm.
then I'm going to do my research on it.
Okay.
Cool. So that's the basic assumption.
Hmm.
That is what we are trying to do basically here, right?
Okay.
Let's just jump into the code. Okay.
So this is all like one .go file, is it?
Yes. So there are two
Hmm.
Go files,
Mm-hmm.
right? I had initially thought that I would need a big package
Okay.
for basically just passing the Hacker News stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I later on realized that I don't really need that big of a package, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's just what around like 150 lines of code. There's no real necessity of it
Okay.
uh, existing in a separate package, but that's what I started with, so I just let it
Mm.
be.
That's what. Are you
Okay.
still using it or it's dead code now?
No, I'm using the code. All
Mm.
I'm saying is from the viewpoint of organizing your code.
Mm.
Sure, it makes sense to
So you are
have
doing
like
a
a separate
import.
package,
So you are doing a
right?
import HN in main.go somewhere.
Yeah. Yes. So okay. So this is my the go.mod file where I'm basically describing the module,
Okay.
right?
This is new to me. What's a dot mod file in Go?
Okay, sure. I did not discuss this in the last conversation that we had.
Yep. Yep.
So, like you have in other languages, right,
Mm-hmm.
where you can create packages. Your
Mm-hmm.
package is nothing but basically a namespace where you're allowing a bunch of routines to
Mm.
exist, right?
Right. Right.
So, in Go, you can group together a bunch of packages and they can exist together as a module.
So you have this hierarchy of package and a bunch of packages grouped together is called a module.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So a package can sorry, a module can consist of just a single package,
Okay.
which is what is
So
there
it's
in my
one
case.
or more packages. Okay.
Right. So it's one or more packages,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And the way is that this is basically going to describe. So when you are trying to do a resolution
Mm.
for
Mm.
finding a given package, right?
Mm.
So this is going to be basically a prefix. So this is basically going to be like the root of your the root name for your package, and then say if I'm using, so I have created a package called hn, right?
Mm.
So when I'm doing an import, I'll be writing this whole path
Mm.
and slash
Mm.
hn, right? So if I go to
Mm.
main.go, right, this is how it's used.
Huh.
Right. So basically, every package is expected to have a unique name,
Mm.
in the sense that the fully qualified name of the package will lead to unique resolution. So you
So
will
so
not have
if I
package
mean
namespace collision.
got it. So just out of curiosity, if you were to hit this URL in your browser, what happens?
If you are to hit this URL in the browser,
GitHub,
it
Manga
a,
readers.
it should actually, yes, it should actually open GitHub with the relevant code. I am assuming it should.
Let's just check it out.
Let's just give it a try. Okay, it
No,
won't
so at
complain.
least at
Okay,
HN job parser.
but yeah, this
Okay.
will give it right.
Mm.
Okay, so
So
just
it's not
let
that
it.
it tries to access. I mean, do we need to give that path in such a way that what? the Go compiler will try and actually um, HTTP get this URL, or
Yeah. So
I mean, just
okay.
curious, or can we
Yeah,
do
yeah. So
anything here? Does it need to be
uh,
actually resolvable URL? I mean, let's say github.com is
no,
inaccessible for someone.
it should be okay. So the way
Mm-hmm.
it works is
Mm-hmm.
what it does is uh I think it's package go. So this is your repository. This is a public repository
Ah, okay. So this is
where you have
like
bunch of your
PyPy
packages.
of Go.
Yes. Oh wait, I think this should resolve. No, I thought I had it. Oh wait, maybe I don't have it. Yeah, I don't have it resolved right now. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, it is asking me to, yeah, I can try downloading it if I want. I am not interested in that. But basically, yeah, if I just click this, what it is going to do is it's just probably going to download the package on their servers and then just expose this.
Mm-hmm.
So
So how do you
I
go about
think
registering something here? Do you need to
I,
register
I,
something here?
you don't really need to do anything. You just need to
Mm-hmm.
click this link. It will just do it automatically for you. I
Okay.
have already upload. Okay, this is a bit embarrassing. I had at least one
Just search
package.
HN job parser. Maybe it
Ah,
shows
yeah,
up.
I had this, right? So
Ah,
I
okay.
just created a package, right? So
Hmm.
and you can basically just so you create the you upload your code in GitHub, right?
Hmm.
If you try searching, right, it's going to
Hmm.
say, hey, we looks like we don't have it, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
but if you think that this is some valid package, we can try downloading it, right?
Okay.
Right. And once it is here, I should be able to use it. The reason why I don't have to download it in this case is because because this basically is pointing to the package that I already have available locally.
In the form of hn.go.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's
Right.
give this a
So
shot.
so
Let's see what happens. Okay.
I mean the code will compile fine. There's
Hmm.
no problem there, right?
Ah, okay.
The code will compile fine. There is no problem. It will create a binary matching job
Hmm.
parser, which is the name of
True.
the right,
Hmm.
this module that you have defined. So yeah, so that's
Interesting.
how it is. So it just looks as to where it is supposed to find that code, right? If it is able to find it locally, it will be like, oh, awesome, got the package that
But
I
how did
needed.
it know to look for hn.go?
Okay, so it is not going to look for hn.go. It is
Mm-hmm.
going to look for this folder called hn, right? Inside the folder, it will see there is
Why
a
is it
file called
looking
yeah.
for a folder
It's
called
looking for
hn?
it's looking for the
Ah,
package and it's not looking for a specific file, right? Because
got
again,
it.
package is a bunch of is a
Hmm.
collection of routines, right? So your
Hmm.
routines can set in single file or multiple files.
Hmm. By the way,
Yeah.
how did it know that I mean, if you go back to main.go, in
Yeah.
main.go you have mentioned the entire URL followed by hn.
Yes.
So is it still looking for the package hn?
It will look for the package HN.
Hmm.
It will look for the package HN. All it is going to do is that you have to give the basically fully qualified name to find the package.
What if you weren't to give the fully qualified name and just say hn? Is it smart enough
Uh,
to find out package hn in the current directory?
I don't think that is how it works.
Okay.
Let's give it a shot,
Yeah.
but I don't think that's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah. Just import hn.
Because it is going to then
Hmm.
no, it's not working, right? Because
Hmm.
uh, the only packages which are allowed to do that
Hmm.
are packages that are part of a standard library.
Hmm.
Right? So if you
Hmm.
look at all the other packages that have
Right.
OS, path, string convert, string sync time, right?
Hmm.
All of these are part of the standard library, and that's the only reason that they don't have any preceding
So
URL or basically
it's like
just
the global namespace or whatever.
yes, right?
Uh, just one final thing about this. So in line number 13, what if we were to give it anything else, not github.com, something like abcd/hn?
It will work fine.
It'll work, right?
So think of it like the way you have
It's
this thing.
just,
What is it called? Yeah, what do we
mm,
call it? Is packages in Java or what do we call them?
not sure. So I mean, it's just a bunch of characters to define a unique string to define a unique namespace slash hn. It could be anything there, right?
Uh, Not just that. So this is also going to basically. So think of it this way. So whenever you mention a package here, right? What
Mm-hmm.
it is going to, what Go
Because
is going
this
to do.
URL as such is not resolving. I mean, if we were to treat it as a
Yes,
HTTP
yes,
URL,
yes. I'm just coming to that. So
mm,
what it is going to do is it in the package namespace,
mm,
it is going to reserve an entry for you, right?
mm-hmm,
And this hierarchical path
mm,
is doing nothing but basically imposing hierarchy for you to organize your packages,
mm,
right? And the way it is doing is this GitHub.com
mm,
is basically going to say, okay, in the global namespace of packages, GitHub.com is reserved for all
mm,
packages on a GitHub,
mm,
right? So
mm,
similarly, I can have say something like uh, say I say test.com,
mm,
right? So
mm, mm, mm.
all and test.com may be something owned by say some company ABC.
Right.
And so basically the test.com namespace in the global namespace of packages is now reserved by that company, right? And it can go ahead and basically keep adding more packages. in that namespace,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So it's like I'm giving you a place, and anything I'm giving you an entry in the namespace, right? And anything under it, right, in the hierarchical format, right? Anything you add to it, right, is basically owned by you. So it's very similar to how you organize packages in Java, actually,
Okay. So it's
right? So
not
if
like
you
a actual, we looked at a bunch of details regarding how packages are named and the name spacing and how they can be imported. So that I think wraps up everything up to line 13. A bunch of standard packages followed by our own in-house HN package. Cool.
Yep.
So what next?
Well, then we just got a bunch of constants which are declared. So in Go, you can declare
Mm-hmm.
block of variables as constants, or you can just mm, okay, that is probably not the technical correct way of saying. You can declare a bunch of stuff in either a const block or a variable block. Basically,
Okay.
whenever you are declaring a bunch of constant literals,
Mm-hmm.
you can have like entries like this,
Mm-hmm.
right? And even in these cases, if you want, you can have like separate blocks to basically show
Mm-hmm.
that the literals have some context, and you can basically group them together based on the context.
So it's like kind of enums in C.
Yes, somewhat similar to enums,
Mm.
right? And I've not used it, but just working along those lines,
Mm.
you can also automate, say, the value being assigned to these
Right.
constant literals. And then
Mm.
yeah, so in that sense, it is
Pretty
pretty
much
close to
like
what you need.
enums in C.
Yes, I
Nice.
have not used that facility here, but yeah, that's
Mm.
available in Go.
Right. We seem to be explicitly specifying the values.
Yes, for our use case, we
Is
just
there some
do
type
replacement.
information associated with these consts? I don't see
Uh,
anything.
yes, so it's an untyped string for now.
Mm.
I mean, if I need, I can add some information, but I do not feel like
So
adding
right
any
now it's
type
just any
information.
other string here, right?
Yeah, so string was what I needed, and that is okay. So
Mm.
I can say if I create a type def for a string,
Mm.
say,
Mm. Mm.
well, you don't call it type def, you call it type, say, say unique string,
Mhm.
and I call it a string, right?
Uh,
Uh, I can then just go and make it like this, right?
uh,
So this also works.
okay.
Right.
Yeah, don't. Cool.
So again, yeah, just for the user ID,
Hmm.
I am going to create a map file.
Hmm.
And what I'm going to do in the map file is all the comments that have been viewed, that have basically, so the intention is that the application is not run once.
Hmm.
The application can be run multiple times,
Hmm.
because all the comments on the post do not come in one go,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
On day one, they may be like, say, 300, 400 comments. On day
Job
two, you may get
posts.
another
Yeah.
100
Job
comments,
new
right?
job
On say
posts.
day, right? On day three, on the
More
same
job
post,
posts.
yes, you're going to get more comments, right?
Hmm.
And say even on the same day, depending on when you're going to run it, right? You say you may not get all the comments, right?
Right.
So to ensure that I'm not repeating effort, so I want to keep a track of all the
Job
posts that
posts. Yeah. All the
that
job
have
posts
that
that you already read.
not read, but all the job posts that have been downloaded,
Mm-hmm.
right? So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to make an API request and download the content of that post.
Mm-hmm.
So all the posts that I have downloaded, I don't want to download them again,
Mm.
right? So that is all the mapper is going to do. It's going to keep a track of all the post IDs, right?
Right.
So all the comment IDs technically,
Mm.
because what I'm downloading are comments. So all the comment IDs that are going to be there, I'm just going to
Right.
download them,
Right.
right? And then in the next one, I am just going to filter out all those comments that I've already downloaded.
Okay.
So that ensures that I'm only downloading comments that are new
Mm.
since my last run.
Yep.
Cool. Created a struct to have configuration. I did not really add a lot of parameters to it. Uh,
Mm.
so one thing I think we have not discussed yet is basically taking up parameters from command line.
Mm. Accepting
Mm,
command line parameters in the
Yes,
app.
yes. So it's very simple. So we look at line 29. This function basically will return the config structure,
Mm-hmm.
pointer to the config structure,
Mm.
and an error if
It
something goes
accepts
wrong.
it accepts these two.
No, it returns these
Ah,
two, and
okay.
it takes
We
in
have
nothing,
closed there. Okay, so it takes
right?
in
So it
nothing,
takes in nothing and returns these
returns a
two,
tuple. Okay.
right?
Hmm.
And we've got the flag package part of the standard library in Go,
Hmm.
which can be used for basically parsing command line parameters that are there.
Okay.
So if you just look at this, not this, uh, it's just going to give you this content. on how to use it, right? It's going to say, okay, if you add a hyphen comment here, right, and it has to be a string, and this is the usage, and it also tells you what is the default value.
So this it has figured out from line number 32
from
in
line
code.
number 32, right, where I'm telling that, okay, so there's a string variable, right? So I am passing it a pointer where it is going to store the input string. If it gets one, the default value, oh sorry, not the default value, the name of the
Name of
flag,
the parameter,
name
name
of
of the
the
flag.
name of the flag, the default value of the flag, and the help message.
Oh, nice.
Right, that's
Cool.
what it
Yep.
does. Right, very simple. You can declare a bunch of such entries, and then you call flag.parse. Just going to parse all the flags that are passed to the application by command line.
Right.
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 And yeah, one thing that is worth highlighting here is flags in Go are different from flags that you will normally see on a Unix style application.
Okay.
So a Unix style application usually has a convention that you have, say, either hyphen h, right, or you have hyphen help, right? So
Right.
you have like a short flag and a long flag. If I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but basically, yeah, you'll have, say, these two flags referring to the same thing, right?
Right.
Uh, Go does not follow this convention. Go
Okay.
has the idea that there is going to be only a single flag, and the single flag is just a single hyphen and the name of the flag, right?
Okay.
And this basically comes from the experience of the Go, the language designers of Go. They were folks who worked on this operating system called Plan 9,
Okay.
right? And this is the convention that was used for for command line applications in Plan 9. So it just got carried from there to
Okay.
Go.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, so if you're using the built-in flag package of the standard library, right, it is not going to provide you your normal Unix style flags. So if you want to use that, then there are separate libraries that are out there that you can integrate with your application, and then yeah, you can get those Unix flavor command line flags.
Okay.
Okay, and yeah, so we're just taking in this base directory variable, and we're just going to do a sanity check on it, right? So what this is going to do is basically, if there is a trailing flash in the application, right, this will just remove it. And the reason is I am going to use path.join later. So I'm going to use this method, and if I remember correctly, I am not supposed to have forward slash, because it's then going to probably add another forward slash to it. I think that's the expectation.
Okay.
Let's just go to that, and this is a simple code. It's just taking the last character of the string. If it is this, then it's just going to remove that.
Okay.
Actually, just realized I missed doing one thing.
By the way, wouldn't additional slash be fine when resolving paths locally?
Let me go to.
I mean, at least on Linux, Bash doesn't complain, and I think
No,
Python
so
doesn't
so that
complain
is a
either.
directory path basically. Let's see. Okay, it does not use it here. Does it use? So here is the package. Okay. Okay, I actually have not. So this is the function that I use basically. So you give it a bunch of. So you give it a list of.
So this is part of the standard
Strings.
library, right?
It is part of the standard library.
I see that path being resolved at the top. User local seller go
Right? Oh yeah,
1.16.5.
right. So
So it's the path package or path module
it's the path module
or package.
package basically. Yes,
Package is
you don't.
path. Okay. And
Yeah,
it's part
package is
of
path.
which module here?
It's part of the standard module basically. Right?
Okay.
So
Standard
it's part
module.
of the standard library basically. Yeah.
Path
Thing called
package
standard.
and join function.
Yes. Right. So if we look at this, right, so they're not doing a check and they're going to just add a slash.
Yeah.
Forward
And redundant
slash.
slashes should be fine.
But I am actually adding, but that is a directory path, so I'm not sure if a redundant slash is okay there or not. I was not sure of that.
Okay. I mean, it should work. Whether you stripping is kind of making it cleaner, I guess. So it should continue to work anyway.
Yes. So yeah. So I did not want to take any chance, and yeah, I just decided it's best to strip it off if it is there.
Yes. By the way, it assumes Linux style path separators.
Yes, so there is an assumption in the code that, yeah,
Would
this
this
is
run? I
expected
mean,
to.
is Go supposed to be kind of OS agnostic? Is it supposed to be runnable on Windows?
You can actually compile
Hmm.
the code and run it on Windows.
So
It
there
supports
is,
multiple operating systems.
right. So, but is there some sort of I mean, just this is a bit of a sidebar, I guess. But
Mhm.
is there some sort of universal executable? So I remember from our last session, it generates static binaries.
Mhm.
But then are those static binaries architecture and OS specific? I would
They
assume
will
so,
be they
right?
will be OS
So
specific,
it's
right?
not like
Yes,
a dot
yes.
.py which is then loaded into the Python module on any and can run on any
No,
OS.
no,
Mm,
no, nothing like that.
mm.
So again, the convention, the use cases that Go has to support requires that we have
So
basically.
it will be
So
compiled to
so it's
Windows.
it's intended. So the
Mm,
output is intended to be fast,
mm.
and interpreted code is never going to be as fast as statically compiled code, right?
Right. So essentially, when you recompile, you may also want to have some sort of check saying, are we compiling for Windows or Linux? And sanitize path behaves, sanitize dir path uses the appropriate
If
separator.
yes,
Mhm.
if I intended it to run on Windows, then yeah,
That's something we'll have to do then. Okay.
yeah, that is, then you'll have to write your code OS agnostic.
Hmm.
Right? I
I
mean,
mean,
even in the standard
hmm,
library also there are places where there is some amount of functionality is basically OS specific, right?
hmm,
You build wrappers, you build higher level logic on top of it,
hmm,
right? That is always going to be there. You just need to separate out the OS specific components, have separate functions for them,
hmm, hmm.
and then probably I'm just making a guess here that they just probably figure out the platform on which they are and then just plug in the relevant function.
Right.
So,
Okay.
right.
So coming back, we handle the command dir flag, command line parameter.
Yeah, and I was hoping that maybe I'll expand it. Haven't expanded it yet. I
Hmm.
don't see a reason, but yeah, just wanted to have it separate.
Right.
So yeah, you do that, and then you do a check whether the uh, input that was actually provided
Hmm.
is a valid directory or not. So you do a check,
Hmm.
and it's just going to do a call to the file system, just basically making use of the stat call, right?
Hmm.
Just assuming this is just a wrapper around the kernel exposed API.
Hmm.
And yeah, so you will find this file information. I'm just going to check, is this a directory or not? And yes, if this is a directory, you're good to go.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah. So that's it. And yeah, once this is done, I know, yes, that the configuration gives me, at this point of time, the configuration struct is just one parameter, one, which is based here. Yeah. And I know this is already sanitized. So I don't intend to perform any say sanity checks after this. Wherever I'm using the parameter, I'm just going to use it straight away.
Hmm.
Right. So coming to the main method, all we're going to do is just we're going to get the configuration, and what we do after this is once we get the configuration, we basically make use of the HN package,
Hmm.
uh, where it will try to extract. It will make an HTTP call
Hmm.
to the APIs that we had discussed earlier, right?
Right.
Get details about the user, parse the JSON, and create a struct out of it, which is your hn.user struct,
Hmm.
right? And that is basically going to contain few elements, but using that struct, what we're going to do is we're going to figure out the post that we are interested in,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And once we find the relevant post, we want to process the post, and in process the post, we just basically downloading a bunch of comments. So let's just get into each of these uh,
Right.
methods, right? So this is very simple. I basically give a user ID string, right?
Hmm.
And it's just going to go to get element, and get element is basically where we are making the HTTP call to the endpoint and basically parsing JSON
Okay.
with
I
the
mean,
get and response.
yeah, you jumped around a bit too quick for me. Can we jump back? Uh,
Sure. Let me get user.
yes, a couple of
Okay, this
functions
is
back.
get user.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, this is it. This is where we jumped in actually.
Right.
We jumped in get user,
Hmm.
right? So all I'm going to get is the user ID,
Or could
right?
we do it this way? What's the entry point? Now that we know we pass command
So,
diff,
so the entry point is basically the first method that you're going to enter is get user.
is there
Get.
some main or something? Let's go from there, right?
So
Let's go all
that
the
is
way from main. Yeah, so
so
func main, we did get config, we parsed it, and we use
we got the config
hn.getUser.
structure.
Then we want to do find post, and then we want to do process
Yes.
post. This is the
Yes.
first level of execution. Hmm.
This is the high level execution,
Hmm.
and we'll jump. Let's just jump into one of the first one, which
Right,
is
so
your get
once we
user.
do get user, yep.
right? So once when you go in get user,
So by
all
the
you're
time we
doing,
come back out of get user, we want to what do we want
we
to
want to
return?
get we want to basically get the details of the user. And if you look at the
Hmm.
structure,
Hmm.
all it is doing is all I'm interested in is getting the username
Hmm.
and the post IDs, the post that the user has created. That's all I'm interested in.
Okay.
But technically, I don't even need the name, but
Hmm.
sure,
Good, right?
why not have it there,
Right.
right? So yes, so and for that I need to make an HTTP call to
Mm-hmm.
the endpoint that we were talking about earlier. I'll get a JSON response to it. That JSON needs to be passed and dumped into the structure,
All right.
right? So since we are just looking at the user struct, let's just take some amount of time to just understand what is happening. So,
Hmm.
uh, so Go allows you to basically, this is the struct declaration, right? So uh, you're just taking a bunch of fields and just capturing them, encapsulating them inside a structure.
Mm-hmm.
And oh wait, my bad. Okay. So one of the things that you can do with structures, you can assign them these tags, right? And these tags are going to be used by packages. They can be used by packages to basically figure out mapping of fields, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what this is so if I want to map structure and
Okay.
that I've received uh, in a JSON object,
Okay.
right? So whatever is there in the whatever value exists for the ID field in that JSON structure,
Mm-hmm.
right? I want to dump this in the name field,
Okay.
right? So whatever value I receive in the JSON object
Mm.
or the submitted key, I
Mm.
want to dump it in post IDs,
Okay.
right? And it's going to do all sort of sanity checks and just do it automatically for me. I don't have to basically go and map them individually. And if there are extra fields, it's just going to ignore them. Or say if a field is missing, then it's just going to have the default value,
So this
right?
this looks like a really powerful thing to have
Yes.
compared
So
to
so
other
this
languages.
yes, so this allows you to pass JSON super easy,
Hmm. Absolutely.
right? So you just create a struct, you just give it tags, right?
Hmm.
Hey, if you see, if I, this is the mapping from a JSON object to this field in the structure, and you give it to the JSON package, and it will take care of decoding or encoding for you, right? It
Yeah.
works the other way also, right? So if I give it a struct and I tell, hey, encode and give me a JSON object, it
Yeah.
will do that for you,
So
right?
essentially, instead of just typing the whole layout and then either using regular expressions or a JSON package to map the members to the respective fields in JSON, you just say it here.
Yeah.
Pretty
I mean,
intuitive.
no, I am actually making use of a package, but yeah, all the information that is there is just exposed here
So,
directly.
so what's the package in this case, JSON?
Yes, so what I'm going to do is, sure, let me jump to that actually.
Hmm.
So uh, that will be my new decoder. Yeah. So from the JSON package, I'm going to create a decoder, right?
Ah,
And in
okay.
the decoder, I'm going to give it data, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the data, and I'll tell, okay, I need to decode it to
Ah,
this
okay.
structure,
So that part
right?
still exists. Good.
That will still exist, but all the mapping that you have
Hmm.
is all exists in a single place,
In the definition, not when we try to decode it.
right? Yes,
Okay.
which is again there in a lot of other languages.
Mm-hmm.
Say from my experience in Java, you
Hmm. I
basically
mean,
need
Python also
to
has
make.
something similar where you can compile regular expressions upfront and then just match them later on.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So in Java, there will be a bunch of packages which will allow you to parse JSON and XML data, right?
Mm-hmm.
But and again, there also you need to create, your classes and just add some annotations to
Okay.
basically define what data you're looking for,
Okay.
the mapping of the data, how it needs to happen, right?
Okay.
So pretty similar to that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
all part of the standard library,
Right.
right?
Okay.
Okay, right. And I'll jump back again, right? So we want to basically get this information in this structure. So for that,
Mm-hmm.
I need to make the API call, right, and
Mm-hmm.
get the JSON response. So for that, what I'm going to do is I have created a generic. I've created a function which takes in a generic input,
Okay.
right? So this interface. Uh, so this is basically an empty interface. So what
Mm-hmm.
does an interface mean? So interface is similar to say what. So in Java, you do have your class, right, and you have your interface, right,
Mm-hmm.
where basically you tell what the methods which are supported by your interface, right,
Mm-hmm.
and the implementation of that interface is going to be your concrete implementation, which will have those specific methods implemented,
Okay.
right.
So what are we
Uh,
telling at line 53 now? We are saying
So what I'm saying is when I say it's an empty interface,
Hmm.
that means it doesn't. So the whatever concrete object that I'm going to pass does not need to pass any specific method
Hmm.
to be considered a value of that interface,
Okay.
right? What that basically means is that anything that I pass,
Hmm.
right,
Positionally.
is
So whatever is the first parameter passed to
yes,
get element.
whatever is the first parameter that I'm passing,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I will check if it is a member of that interface. So you're going to do your type checking, right? So when
Hmm.
you're doing a type checking, and if I'm giving if I'm given an entity here,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I will do a type check
Hmm.
and say it is a string that's
Hmm.
given as first parameter. So I will check whether string can be a member of the given interface, right?
Okay.
And uh, the expectation of the interface is that nothing needs to be implemented, no function needs to be implemented
Hmm.
to be eligible to be a member of this interface, right? And
Hmm.
string does the same. String is not going to implement anything, right?
Okay.
I can pass any structure, right? And if the structure uh, say the structure is not implementing any method,
Hmm.
it is eligible.
Hmm.
If it is implementing any method, it is still eligible, right?
Hmm.
Because for this interface, I don't need it to do something.
So what's the
But
idea behind using this? Why not just get a normal standard typed object or a struct or a string like that?
because I want to pass different sort of type objects,
Mm-hmm.
right? I want to basically pass different kind of types in the
Mm-hmm.
same position, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the function logic remains the same,
Mm-hmm.
irrespective of the type value that I'm passing here.
Okay. So what does get element do? At
Get element do
56, it
yes.
looks at the type of the element, the
So
first.
before I
Mm,
start using, so because what I'm getting here is an empty
mm,
interface,
mm,
right?
mm,
Uh, Once I'm inside, the value of LM
mm,
here
mm,
is, as you can see, it is still the empty interface, right?
mm,
But if I want to extract the values which are exposed by the concrete type,
mm,
right? I need to do the type conversion. So
mm.
this
So
is
you
what
need
I'm
to
doing.
first know what the type is. So
I
depending
need to
upon
first
the
know what the type
type,
is.
what do you
Yes.
do?
So
You say key. So you basically decide what will be the key you will use
yes,
depending upon
basis
the
of
type.
the type,
Okay.
right? So, and I only want to support three types,
Mm,
right? So pointer to a post structure, pointer to a comment structure,
mm.
pointer to a user structure. That's
Okay.
what I want, right?
Okay.
So for that,
If
I
the
support
first
them, and
element
for
passed was a post or a comment or a user, you will handle it. Else you will complain and return from line 64.
yes, then I'm
Okay.
going to return an error.
Mm.
That's it,
So in
right?
67, now you say get endpoint
Yes, and
key.
what get endpoint does is
Mm,
basically I need to give it the key.
mm,
So the key will basically tell me which is the key and the parameter, right?
mm,
So if I just go to get endpoint,
mm,
it's nothing. I have a map here, right? Corresponding to the key, I have the endpoint, right? And the endpoint is basically a format string,
mm,
and it just takes in one parameter, which is going to be what is the second entry of the function here, right?
second parameter. Okay.
The second parameter, I just create the endpoint string,
Mm,
add it to the base URL, which I have defined here, right?
nice.
And I get the endpoint that I'm interested in.
All right. So coming back so let's look at a call to get element and trace it all the way back to creating the query string.
Yeah. So I'll get there. Let me just cover this. And once you
Mm,
have the endpoint, right, you're
mm,
just going to make a get call,
mm, mm,
right?
mm.
I'll just do a quick sanity check.
You'll get the body.
Right? I'll get the body. Okay. I'll just come to this later. I'll check if there's any error, and if the response code is 200.
Mm,
If that is not the case, I'm just going to return error,
mm,
right?
mm, mm,
And if there is no issue, then I'm going to use the response that I've received, right?
mm.
And if you remember from our last discussion, Go has this concept of defer, right?
Right.
Which is basically functionality which is executed once we are done with the control flow
Mm,
of the current function,
right.
right?
Right.
So I am writing this line where I'm
Mm,
basically asking to perform a close operation on the body once I am done with this function, so that I do not have to take care of closing this object
mm-hmm.
once I'm done reading content. So I do not have to take care of, okay, if some error happens while reading it, or say if I'm able to read everything successfully, right? I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to take care of it at multiple places. I just write it here, and I'm guaranteed that whenever I exit, the close method will be called
Mm,
for this content, right?
okay.
Yeah.
So
So
that does what? Closes the connection? What
yeah,
does that?
it does not close the connection.
Mm.
I think it just releases the resource that is allocated
Ah.
for reading the response, right?
What does the comment say? Comment when you hold it over
Oh,
body.
the body is going to talk about
Even on
the structure.
responses without zero, it's the caller's responsibility to close the body. So in the second paragraph, it's saying it's the caller's responsibility to close the body If the body is not read to completion and close, then HTTP client may not reuse keep alive. Okay, so probably it uses a bunch of resources, memory for
Yeah.
sure, and some network resources too.
Yeah. So we just want to
We
free
need
those
to release
resources.
all those. Okay.
Yeah. Right. That's there.
Mm,
So I did all this sanity check here, right,
mm.
for errors. And once I'm done with that, I get the JSON object, right, which is in response.body. This new decoder object is going to
So,
read that.
so again here we are not really hitting the Hacker News page. We are hitting the Hacker News Firebase endpoints,
Yes.
which return pure JSON, which
Yes.
is how you can decode it.
Yes.
Mm,
Yes, exactly.
mm.
And that is the benefit, right?
Yep,
Since I'm getting JSON objects, right,
correct.
I do not really have to parse any HTML,
Exactly.
right? Which
Nice.
which was the case with my previous
Previous attempt, previous
attempt,
implementation. Yep.
right? So yes, so this decodes it, and yeah, if no error decoding, then this just says okay, no error. And if I get no error, then I know that yeah, what I was trying to do was successful. I just check
So you successfully
any
hit
errors.
a endpoint.
Yes, so when I get if the error is nil, that means whatever I was expecting this get element to do, which is
Mm,
basically hit the endpoint, get JSON response, parse it, and dump it in the structure. All of that went well. So that
mm.
means I can return the structure.
Okay. So this is get user.
Right? And similarly, I can do it for a post, get
Mm,
post, and
mm.
I can similarly do it for a comment.
Okay.
Right.
Mm,
So that is why we had that empty interface being used there.
mm. So when we call, let's compare the three get element calls from
Mhm,
get comment, from get user, and from get post.
mhm.
So in one line number 90, we are passing it a comment object.
Yes, it's a comment object
Mm,
pointed to a comment structure,
mhm. So you
and
just define
field.
an empty comment which will be populated.
Yes, so it will be populated by its default. So all the field values will be given their default values. For int, that will be 0. For bool, that will be false. For
Okay.
string, it will be an empty string.
And then you pass it to get element, and you pass it the element, or rather the comment that you want to be parsed as the second parameter, the comment
Yes,
ID,
so
right?
so that will just
Mm.
give it the ID that it needs
So
to
get
use.
element goes and makes the HTTP request to the REST endpoint, which contains this comment ID, the data of this comment ID, and the
Yes,
JSON response that it gets, it is going to populate in the comment, whatever we have
yes,
passed by reference. So when line number 90 returns, the comment struct, the comment object will contain all these four values, four fields. ID is going to be probably the comment ID that you passed in, right?
yep,
And the text, by, and whether it was deleted or it is still active, those three fields are pulled from the network, from the
yep,
Firebase REST endpoint. Cool.
yes,
Mm,
right. So, and yeah, so if you look at it, so I have basically declared three structures: comment, post, and user,
mm,
right?
mm,
This is just for conversion from JSON to structures that I can use,
right.
right?
Mm,
And yeah, I have this constants that I'm going to use
okay.
for figuring out what is the key.
Mm,
Been created using this. I've created the map because I just wanted to basically basis of what type of object that I'm being passed, right?
mm,
I wanted to basically create the relevant. I want to figure out the relevant API endpoint.
mhm,
So that's the way I've done it. Yes, simple get endpoint. Okay, we've discussed this. Get element. We have discussed this. Again, then we've got three functions called get comment. I'm just going to skip save for now, and yeah, get post and get user. So that is majority of the code in this package.
okay. Mhm,
And yeah, I just added one more method uh, on the comment object, where basically for a given comment, you can save the content of the comment. So what does that do? It takes in a directory as an
mhm,
argument,
mhm.
and inside that directory, eh, it's going to do like sanity checks. The ID should not be equal to 0. Comment should not be deleted. This directory should be like non-empty string. Okay, this is redundant code. I should have just used the check that I had done earlier. Uh,
Right.
just need to add that here. So let me add that. And yeah, okay. And I should use part.join here instead of doing this. Yep. So I'll get the file ID.
Mm,
and yeah, I'll create a file and I'll dump the content. I'll write the content to the file, and yeah, that's it. So all I'm doing is whatever is the text of the comment, I'm just going to dump it to a file
Yep.
in a given directory, right? So the
Right.
directory is person based. That's it. That's all Save does, and that's all the HN package does. So as you can
Nice.
see,
Nice.
right? Not a lot of code. That's why I was wondering if it really needs to be a separate package, but sure, why not?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Back in main. I mean, it
Back in
kind of
main.
simplifies main, I would say, more than
eh,
making HN something meaningful.
Yep. I mean, the point is that it could be the separate file in the main package, and
Okay.
it would still work. I don't need to create a separate package for it.
I see what you mean. Yep.
Right? But yeah, sure. Cool. So we've got the user. Let's go to find post. So
Okay.
once I have the user struct, what do we want to do with the find post? It does something very simple. It just gets, as I had said, right, the assumption
Mm-hmm.
we had. I'll just add it here that we assume that first post is reverse chronologically sorted. So we assume that posts are reverse chronologically sorted,
All right. Latest is
right?
first. Sure.
Reverse chronologically sorted. And first entry is of interest. It's only one of interest, right?
Hmm.
Right. So that is why we are going for 0. Once I get the post ID, I'll just get the post, and as we had seen earlier, right? So it will, let's just look at the post object also. So I get the title, I get the content of the post, right? And I get the base ID, the base comments IDs, right? As we had seen earlier. I get only the first level comments, not the second or the any of the higher level comments,
Hmm.
right? And yeah, so that's what I'm interested in. So I pick that. So yeah, I get the post ID, and I get the data from the post populated in this variable, and I do a match, right, on the title. I want to just check if the post is actually what I'm interested in. So this is very simple. All you do is you get the information about today.
Mm-hmm.
Just check if it is for the current month, the current year, and it has the string hiding. So I just go back here, right? So this is the format. You have the string ask Captain News, who is hiring, month and the year,
So this will
right?
help you identify, or rather, ignore the
Uh,
other two posts this user generally tends
right.
to post. Okay.
Yes. Right. And I am only interested in the latest post, right? I am not
Mm-hmm.
interested in posts, say, a month ago or 2 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
right? Will just basically allow me to do that filtering,
Hmm.
right? And yeah, so that's it. And I will return that post here, right? And once I have this post, right? So once I know I have this is a post that I'm interested in, for that post, I'm going to put this called process post, right?
Hmm.
And process post, if you look at it, does not do a lot of work. It's very simple. It's going to tell you the total number of comments, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to create a map uh, of all the old comments, that is all the comments that we had seen during our last run, till our last run, not during, till our last run,
Hmm.
right? I'm going to create a map of that. Then I'm going to get all the new comments by basically giving it the list of all the comments on the post, and
Hmm.
all the comments that I have seen till then,
New
right?
jobs basically. Each comment is one
Right,
comment is a job. Hmm.
right. So I'll get basically the IDs of all the new comments.
Hmm.
I'll just dump this number here,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
And I'll call save comment,
Hmm.
where I'm just passing it a directory.
Okay.
The list of comment IDs that needs to be saved, right?
Hmm.
And at the end, once I'm done with saving all those comments, I need to update the map,
Hmm.
right? So I'm just going to update the map here. That's all we're doing here,
Okay.
right? If you go to old comments, so as you can see, the comment here
It
states
reads
that
that same file that we would have written in the
yes,
previous run.
so right, so it will get the path
Hmm.
that is going to be basically directory plus map file. It's
Right.
going to read that file and write, and it's going to create a map out of it.
Okay.
So I get the data here, and I pass it an empty map, right?
Hmm.
And this is going to be very simple. It is going to, so that gets the entire content of the file here as a
Hmm.
string.
Hmm.
This is going to spread them line by line,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And new line is basically the assumption is that, yeah, this
New
is
line
going
is
to
the
be,
separator.
yeah, new line is a separator. This will not work on Windows because the separator is different on Windows, right? So yes, one of those assumptions that we are working on Unix platform, right? So we split them per line, whatever the value that we get, right? I'm just going to store the ID of the comment. So yeah, since it's a string, convert it into a number, and yes, I will just dump it
So you
into the
use
map.
that in your next function, new comments, I say
Yes,
below.
exactly, right? So this is old comments, and after old comments, you want to basically get all the new comments, right? So the new comments, I give it a list of all the new IDs and a map of all the old IDs, right? Right, and yeah, this
So
is
it removes
basically
everything that exists in the
right.
old.
Filters out old comments from given list of comments, right?
Okay.
It's just going to do a check. Does the entry exist in the map? If yes, then ignore it. If it does not, then yeah, this is what we are interested in, right? And in the end, we just return won't, right? Plain simple.
Yep.
Right. So now this ID list is basically a list of all the
New job postings since
new
the
job posts
last
that I
time.
have, right? And I want to save it. So how do I save it?
Nice.
All I'm going to do is okay. So this is where I use some of the Go magic, which goes popular. So say, assume you have got like 200 comments, right? So either I can download all those, I can make those 200 HTTP requests in a serial way, right? Or I can make 200 parallel requests, right? So to make those parallel requests, right, and not have to having to worry about how to basically take care of these comments, right? With all the concurrency in place, the moment you start going from say a single control flow to the concurrency mainstream, things can get a bit complicated, and if you're not using the right synchronization primitives, shit can go wrong. So Go makes that pretty simple. So what I'm doing here is I am going to use a wait group, right? The wait group is my synchronization primitive, and the way you can think about it is wait group will basically be a counter, right? You can basically tell the wait group, you can add a count. So you can assume we initialize it to some value, say that is size, right? And whenever I'm say running say a Go routine, right, which is going to be a concurrent execution of a piece of code, right? Once I'm done with that, I will say wait group dot done. That is one of the concurrent control flows is done, right? So that will basically, when I say done, that will decrement the counter by 1. Okay, and the moment it reaches 0, that means all the concurrent execution that was happening
is completed.
done,
okay,
right? Has completed, and this wait call, right, on the same counter will basically will be blocking this control flow till the time the counter does not go to 0.
Okay.
Right. And if say by any case the counter goes below 0, it is going to cause a panic, because yes, because if I started with say 5 parallel Go routines, I should be decrementing the counter only 5 times. If I've decremented for a 6th time, that means there is some logical flaw. Right.
Yep.
Cool.
So
that is one thing.
What are the WG APIs we are calling? We are setting our WG at 137.
Yes, we are
at
calling
138 we say add and we pass size. What is the size here?
Size is just an integer that you're going to give it, and basically when you're starting it, you're giving it a positive number, right? So
is it the number of parallel Go routines it will execute, or?
Yes. So the expectation is that you're going to pass it. When you initialize, you will probably have an idea of in some cases, you may not have an idea of how many Go routines you need, but usually you have an idea of the number of the parallel Go routines that you want to invoke, right? So in this case, I got 200 IDs. I want to say create 200 Go routines, right?
Okay.
So I will so here I'm just getting the length of the list of IDs, right? And that's the number that I'm going to add, right? So if I use this, I can basically create 200 different Go routines if that's the length.
Okay.
Right.
And then in extract comment, we are passing this wait group.
Yes, where I'll be decrementing it once a Go routine is done. So since I'm creating 200 Go routines, so for every Go routine, it's just going to decrement it once.
Go routines are going to get created within extract comment, or how?
No, so Go keyword is the one which is going to create a Go routine, and this Go extract comment means create a Go routine, and the extract comment, right,
is
going
the
to be an
function that entry point
is
of
the
that
entry
Go
point,
routine.
basically, right?
Okay.
That's how you can think of it. And this is the basically parameters that the entry function is going to use.
So a function that, okay, so let's look at extract comment then.
Sure, we'll go there. Just give me 1 more minute here. So we create those 200 say Go routines.
Yep.
Once a Go routine is done, it will decrement the counter by 1.
Yes.
Once all the 200 are done, they will decrement by 200. So this will go to 0. That means this
Until
control
then,
flow, right?
145 would have been
145
waiting.
will be blocking.
So
right?
from 141 to 143, we spawn 200 go routines, come to 145 and wait. Once the
Yes.
200 go routines complete, once the last of the go routines completes,
Then
145
this
unblocks.
unblocks and you can go ahead, right?
Okay.
Cool. That is one thing. The another Go specific thing that we are using is basically channels,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So basically, what you're doing with channels is instead of, so for every say go routine that is executing, right?
Hmm.
I want to basically get the ID of the comment. Is that what I'm doing it? Okay, let me go back and see what.
What does make do? Okay, let's dig into extract comment first. Then we can come back
Yes.
to
Oh,
channels.
I just realized I'm using channel unnecessarily. My bad.
Uh-huh. It's something just left over. We never made use of a channel, is it?
We make use of it, but I did not have to use it. That's what I just realized.
Hmm.
Okay, I'll just tell you what I'm doing here is so I have created a channel. Every go routine
Hmm.
will once it completes, let's just go to the go routine, right? So this is the go routine
Hmm.
that I'm going to execute, right?
Hmm.
Once this routine, once
So when we
say we
call
are
this go routine or instantiate this go routine, we are passing it a common weight group. We are
we're
passing
passing
it
it a
a
common
common
weight group,
channel.
we're passing it a common channel, right?
Okay.
So and the very first thing that we do when you usually have like something that you want to use as a go routine is
Hmm.
you just do a defer on the weight group,
So
right?
that once
Because
the go
again,
routine finishes, it will automatically signal
it
to the weight
automatically
group.
yes, right?
Perfect.
So what I'm doing is I'm getting the comment ID. I'm sorry, using comment ID, I'm just going to get the
Getting the
comment,
content of the comment.
getting
Okay.
the content, try to save it, right?
Hmm.
And if all this worked well, then I'm passing the ID to a channel,
Okay.
right? What this means is that once the content has been saved, right? Now it is okay. Okay, now I think I understand why I use the channel. Now it is okay for me to add this ID to the map of
Done.
IDs that I'm going to save at the end,
Yeah, to
right?
the done. So it's actually done. So how do you keep track of, okay, out of those 200, 190 worked and 10 maybe failed because of network issues or some
Right,
intermittent
something
thing?
like that. So I need to pass that information, right?
Which
And
worked and
what
which failed?
right? And the channel is basically going to be like my buffer where I can save that information,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Right, because otherwise, if I need to pass that information, if I'm say returning this right as a value here, then there needs to be something else on the on
Caller side.
in the caller side that needs to collect these values, and it needs to be able to handle it coming from different threads, right? So basically, handling that concurrency is simplified for us by
You
making
just
use of a channel.
yeah, just dump
It's
all
just a
your
buffer,
return
and I'm just
values.
yes, it's just a buffer, and I'm just appending this content to
Right.
whatever was the last content of the
Essentially, you
buffer,
don't
right?
even care about the order in which they were read. You just want to know whether something was successfully read or not of those 200.
Yes, yes, that's
Okay.
it.
Okay, let's
And
jump back.
right, just one more thing. This channel here is the type given to the channel here is a read only channel. Sorry, a write only channel,
Ah,
right?
okay.
So so this arrow is going towards the channel. That means we are writing to the channel, right? And the moment you have an arrow coming out of the channel, that means you are reading from the channel.
Okay.
That's just the Go convention. I mean, your channel
Nice.
can be bidirectional. That means you can either read or write to it, or you can specifically give channels which are say read only or write only,
Okay. So we don't
right?
accidentally want to read from it.
Right. So
Does the read act as a pop?
yeah, I mean, think of it as a queue,
So if someone
right?
accidentally read something in this function, that ID would be lost from the channel, which we don't want. We want only
Yes,
to fill
so
IDs here.
we know, yes, we know that this is only the place where it is going to generate data to be pushed to the channel.
Correct.
So I'm just going to give it write only access.
Perfect.
Right.
And we
yeah,
have the ch here, which extract comments would have filled. So we had passed ch as the channel in 142.
yes, and we're also giving it a size. So size is basically the buffer capacity.
Okay.
Right. So
what do we do with ch after 142? After it contains.
After we do, we call a close on it. That means
okay.
So that means the channel is closed. You cannot write to a closed channel; it will cause a panic. Right?
So but it's not freed; it's just closed.
It's just closed, right? That means you can read from a closed channel, right? You cannot write to a closed channel.
Interesting. Nice.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
And again, once you close a channel, that means
so earlier it was write only within extract comment. Now we have made it read only.
Yes, I mean there is no specific reason for me to close it here. I can close it say sometime later also, but I know that all the write operations on it are done, and this is a good enough place for me to close
Accidental
it.
writes will be blocked, will fail.
Yes, right. So yeah, so I'm going to return the channel, and the channel now has, and I'm basically going to pass it save map, right? So I have all the list of all the channels of all the entries that I just saved, all from the earlier run. I'm just going to save it, update the map basically, right?
Right.
So it's just going to do those simple things. It's just going to open the file, right? And for all entries in the channel that I had, right? I'm just going to write them to the file. And then for all the entries that I had on the map, I'm just going to write them to the file,
Okay.
right? And you're done, right? So that's that. Yeah. So overall, yeah, that's the logic that is there.
Okay.
And let me just
By
try
running
and
this program, we essentially create two files, one map and one bunch of all the job postings.
right. So let me just try running it once. Okay. Okay. And it'll just script about.
Error.
Yeah. So it just scripts because these are deleted comments.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
technically
So
not error. It's just warning that,
yeah.
hey,
So I could have not had I could have just avoided these log lines, but I was like, yeah, I'm cool with it. Don't
okay.
remind it.
So what does this tell us? There were about 10-15 jobs that were deleted.
Yes. So some yeah. So there were a few comments that were deleted.
Okay. So maybe the post got full, someone got
Uh,
hired, or they changed their mind.
no. So you can't really delete content from Hacker News. Someone would have probably requested that the post be deleted. I'm not really entirely sure as to why someone would
Right?
delete.
Why wouldn't you be able to not
Oh,
delete
Hacker News does not give you the capability of deleting
your own
comments.
comments?
Yes,
Huh.
from what I understand.
Okay. Interesting.
Right. Yeah, it does allow, I think, you to modify comments for a given amount of time, but it does not allow you to delete them. Or maybe people just remove the entire content, and that is why it was called deleted. I'm not sure. You can't really go back to an old post or an old comment and delete it. That's what I recall.
So what
But
happens? I mean, this again a sidebar. What happens if we try to get the content of this ID?
oh, it's just an empty string basically. There's no content.
So
Right.
if you
So I
scroll
can
back
just
to
I
that,
can just use this now.
okay,
Like, let's just go there
let's
now.
try to get it here.
We just have it here, right?
So when
Right.
deleted becomes true,
There is no content, right?
otherwise there would be another field, right? What would be the
Right.
field?
Let me just see if this is even a valid number or not. But let's just hope. Oh, it's a comment. Yes, it's a comment, and yeah, it has text.
Okay.
Right.
So compared to the previous one where the text field just didn't exist, or was it empty?
It didn't exist, right? You don't get it in the response, right?
So there is no text field. When deleted is true, there is no text field. So you should not attempt to parse a text field.
Yeah, I mean, it will basically by default, it will be assigned an empty string in the struct, right? And you can try saving an empty string, but that's just useless.
Yes, makes sense.
Right?
Okay,
Makes sense, right? So, right. So, and if I try to run it again, right?
awesome.
0 new comments.
Yeah.
It will full comments, right? And just to make it more fun and just really see if this actually works or not, right? So I am going to move it out, and I'm just going to delete everything here, right? And I'm just going to bring map back here, right? And
so what did we do? We retain the old map.
we retained the old map, but
So it
there was no.
believes it has all the comments.
Yes, it believes it has
So
all the
it is
comments.
not
It's not
going to create any new comments, save any new
right.
comments.
And if I really want to see it works as expected, then I can just go and I can
delete
just
a couple of lines. Yeah.
right. And just go and say, okay, so it should give me
about
19 new
19
comments.
more comments.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
19 new files.
Right. That's
Yep.
that.
Cool.
So yeah, so that's that.
That's the sanity test done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This itself took quite some time. So yeah, I think we'll discuss the
Can you open
server.
the file? One of them.
Sure, I can open the file.
What does it
Is
look
this
like?
is it going to be the HTML content actually?
So the text contains the entire HTML
The text
of the
contains the
comment.
HTML content of the comment, and this is the reason why, because viewing this is a pain. Parsing this is also going to be pain. Again, again have to write an HTML parser, which is why I just dumped this content and just use a web server to show me this content. Right?
Okay.
Let the browser do all the parsing and stuff. And why the hell should I waste my time there?
Yeah. So that's going to be the part 2 of this chat, is it?
Yep.
Do you have a sneak preview? How does it look like?
Sure, it's not that difficult. Let me just create.
So I've written a job server in Go.
Right, and
it did say some issue.
Yeah, that's because I have not done the required cleanup.
Would it still work though?
Yeah, it will.
Okay.
I'll just need a file ID. I mean, there are a bunch of optimizations that I can do here that I have not done yet.
So now let's just open a
host, 8080 view, and that's there. right?
Hmm.
I do not have to worry about parsing the HTML content and producing
Absolutely.
decent output, right?
Yes.
Just just shove it inside an HTML page and just render it via a server,
Cool.
and yeah, my job is done,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, just adding on to the sneak, if we have got this right, so just created a form here. It
Hmm.
just basically does an accept, reject, or accept, right?
Okay.
If I do an accept, it just moves to a separate folder called
Okay.
accept.
It's
If
not
I
like
do
you
a
get the
reject,
job, right?
I wish it would do that, but yeah,
Yeah.
it does not do it, right? And I've got this function called exit. Just
Mm-hmm.
click it, and that just kills the server gracefully,
Okay.
right? So I
Cool.
can just show you, right? Terminating server.
Nice.
And if I go here, hopefully this terminated. Yeah, I have just added some log lines saying it terminated gracefully. I'm not really sure if it terminated gracefully, but yeah, who knows what's
At least it
happening
says
inside the
so.
code.
Print zero
Yes,
error, zero warnings.
exactly.
Cool. That was awesome. Time for me to go through this and digest. So you'll be putting this on GitHub again, right?
This code, I think
Already exists.
it already exists.
Hmm.
The one for just downloading the comments
Job parsers.
does exist.
Hmm.
Let me just check if I have pushed the latest comments. Yes,
Probably
it
it's
is.
already done. Yep, it's all
It's
up.
already done.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean the latest is already there.
Okay, cool. Let me go through that once then.
Sure.
It was awesome. Chalo, see you in part 2 then. Thanks.
Chalo.
Bye
See you later.
bye.
Bye. Good night.